Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kunvarakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mihi Ki Jai. Yamuna Mihi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. So let me make sure I got the right verse. Let's see. We have this, but it wasn't in the right spot. Tapas, you there?
Yes, Prabhu. I think it is 1834.
34. You say 32?
34, Prabhu.
34. All right, let's go with 34. Yeah. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the 6th day of December 2021 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 18, conclusion, the perfection of renunciation, text 34. Yaya tu dharma kamatan dritya dharayate arjuna pasangena palakangshi dritihi sa partarajasi yayatu dharma kamartan dritya dhariyate arjuna pasangena palakankshi Duti sa partavajasi yayat dharma kamartan dritya dhariyate arjuna pasangena palakankshi duti sa partarajasi yayat dharma kamartan dritya dhariyate arjuna pasangena palakankshi duti sa partarajasi yayat dharma kamartan dritya dhariyate arjuna pasangena palakankshi Triti sa partarajasi yayat dharma kamartan dritya dhariyate arjuna Vitatena palakankshi sa partarajasi yayat dharma kamartan chadhariyate arjuna kela palakankshi iti sapartarajasi yayat dharma kamartan dritya dhariyate arjuna pasangena palakankshi triti sapartarajasi yayat dharma kamartan dritya dhariyate arjuna pasangena palakankshi triti sapartarajasi yayat dharma kamartan dritya dhariyate arjuna pasangena palakankshi triti sapartarajasi Zoomland
yayat dharma kamartan
yayat dharma kamartan
dritya dhariyate arjuna
dritya dhariyate arjuna
pasangena palakankshi triti
sapartarajasi word by word. Yaya, by which, to, but, dharma, religiosity, kama, sense gratification, artan, and economic development, dritya, by determination, dhariyate, one sustains, Arjuna, O Arjun, pasangena, because of attachment, pala akankshi, desiring fruitive results, dritihi, determination, sa, that, partha, O son of Pita, rajasi, in the mode of passion. Translation. But that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjun. Purport. Any person who is always desirous of fruitive results in religious or economic activities, whose only desire is sense gratification, and whose mind, life, and senses are thus engaged, is in the mode of passion. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Krishna is continuing to describe various elements of activity and character according to the different modes of nature. And just to review, he has described the different workers in texts 26, 27, 28. He described the different understanding in 30, 31, and 32. And then he's describing the different determinations, kinds of determination, 33, 34, and now we'll read 35, mode of ignorance. Yaya swapnam bayam shokam vishadam madamevacha navamuntati dhurmedha tuti sa parta tamasi. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion, such unintelligent determination, O son of Pita, is in the mode of darkness. Purport. It should not be concluded that a person in the mode of goodness does not dream. Here, quote, dream means too much sleep. Dreaming is always present, either in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. Either in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, dreaming is a natural occurrence. But those who cannot avoid oversleeping, who cannot avoid the pride of enjoying material objects, who are always dreaming of lording it over the material world, and whose life, mind, and senses are thus engaged, are considered to have determination in the mode of ignorance. So, we should know that these divisions are always pertinent to us. When we want to do anything, and we always have to do things just to survive in this world, then we are a worker in one of the modes. We have a certain determination. We have a certain understanding of the means of achievement, what we want to achieve. And we have a certain understanding of who we are and what our goal in life is and all of these things. So these are very important to understand, and we should always be trying to cultivate these things in the mode of goodness. Because the mode of goodness, as we mentioned before, is like a platform. It's not the perfection, but it's a platform upon which real understanding can grow. Just like it says in the beginning of the 10th canto, like the 3rd verse of the whole 10th canto, 4th verse. Maharaj Pariksit is asking Shukadev, and now, at last, after 9 cantos, how many days was it? Maybe 5 days. Just not eating, just hearing, no sleeping, no nothing. Now, please, delineate Lord Krishna's actual pastimes when he appeared. And he has this verse that's practically the only verse quoted in the whole Krishna book. Nivritta tarshai rupagiyamanan babavshadat shota manobiramat ka uttama shloka gunanavarat puman vadajeta vina pushugnat. So first he describes the wonderful qualities of hearing about Krishna from the right source. Oh, I just wanted to ask if we can keep a cushion behind, because we don't lean on the back. But if we put a cushion back there, we can have it, because it's a meditation of Balaram, the whole temple. So what does this verse mean? Prabhupada took trouble to quote it. So Nivritta Tarsha means free of thirst, free of material desire. So somebody is free of, we don't know who yet. Upagiyamanat, being sung by this person who's free of material desire. Bhavaushadats, something which serves as a remedy, a medicine to cure the disease of birth and death. Bhava means birth and death, and aushadhi is an herbal remedy. And what is it? Shrota manobiramat. This medicine is very delightful for the ear and the mind. Shrota manobiramat. Ka hu uttama shloka gunanavarat. The descriptions of the qualities, according to Shastra, of the Lord. Uttama shloka. Uttama shloka is a name for God, a name for Krishna, who is glorified in the best of songs, most beautiful verses. Who would give it up? This is a medicine. All you do is drink it through the ears. And he says, what does it say? Bhavaushada shrota mano abhiramad, and delights the ear and the mind. It's not a bitter medicine. It's very, very tasty and wonderful, nourishing for the soul. And it delivers one from birth and death. So who would give it up? Vina, no one but, Vina virajeta, give it up. Vina virajeta, puman virajeta vina pashugnat. A person, only those people who are killing themselves, meaning that they're performing spiritual suicide, or they're killing animals. In other words, if you're stuck in the mode of ignorance through your addiction to meat eating, intoxication, etc., then you cannot relish, you cannot have any taste for glorification of God, for spiritual instructions like this, because you're stuck in these lower modes. This is the whole idea. The mind becomes conditioned by whatever mode is most prominent. We all have some combination. You know, there's millions of combinations, of percentages. But if you cultivate mostly mode of ignorance and passion, then this doesn't have any attraction for you. You know, nobody, I mean, you look, I mean, of course, there are devotees preaching on the internet, and I'm saying, whoa, 300,000 hits, 400,000 hits. Wonderful preachers in India. And you know, this one devotee gets on, he's kind of funny. You know, you ever see him? But he gives the right message, millions of hits. That's good. But basically, even if it's millions of hits, there's hundreds of millions, billions of people who they're not even aware who we are, you know. And if they come in touch with it, it just doesn't attract them. So the whole point is that we need to try to cultivate the mode of goodness and purity so that we can be attracted to Krishna and everything related to Krishna. And attracted to hear and begin to chant the holy name so that we really purify. What's the first words of the Shikshastika? Cheto Darpanamarjanam. Yes, that's Cheto Darpanamarjanam. This chanting of the holy name, especially in congregation, very powerful. It's the Yuga Dharma. Polishes the mirror of the heart. It means that it cleanses us of the influence of these lower modes of nature. And what happens? You get into the mode of ignorance. You become down, morose, you know, and you're so morose and lonely that you search for some quick fix, some drug. You get into intoxication, and you have to move them into very dangerous circles where you can become done physical harm to you. It's just a syndrome, you see, of going down and down. And so it's very dangerous to allow oneself. Now one of the words here that I wanted to focus on here, prasangena. You see the word prasangena? Where were we? 33 was the one we read first? No, 34. So this is determination in the mode of passion. And he says, prasangena palakangshi. Prasangena means attachment, but it means very strong attachment. That prefix pra always intensifies. You know, pravarshana, rain, lots of rain, you know. So here's prasangena. Now this word comes up again and again. In the beginning of Kapila Dev's instructions to his mother, he has these 8 verses about Sangha. I think I've maybe shared with you. It's like a sadhu sangashtaka. It's all about the importance of associating with sadhus. Because who you associate with, and of course association in those days meant physically coming in touch so you could hear and sit, you know. But nowadays, we have so many association through the internet, you know. So it's not as good, but it can be very powerful. Association through the books, associating with Prabhupada. So here, but prasangena, prasangam ajaram pasham, atmanakavayovidu. So here he says in one line, ajaram pasham. Does anyone know what the word pasha means? Like Naga Pasha? It's a rope. It's a rope. Ajara means very strong ropes. So these attachments that we have in our heart, which you naturally develop just by living in the world, unless you're being guided, your parents are raising you in a Krishna conscious family, you still develop attachments, but it's attachment to Krishna. Otherwise, you'll be attached to material things, naturally. So those attachments can become extremely strong. We can experience attached to other people. You know, the child is completely attached to the mother. Mother is completely attached to the father, to the child. So many attachments. So the wise understand that attachment has to be diverted from matter, material things, to sadhus, because sadhu sangha is the key, the association of devotees. It has to break through the veil of illusion that's so powerful in the material world, especially this age. And so the intervention of a pure devotee, such as Srila Prabhupada, he breaks through, and for those who are fortunate enough to be able to hear with a little bit of receptivity, the whole life can be transformed, as it has for many of us. Because this knowledge is coming to us now. It's not just the Bhagavad Gita, it's the Bhagavad Gita as it is, meaning it's been given by someone who, the first thing is that when you read Prabhupada's books, he really wants you to understand this. It's not just some, philosophy he's speculating on, or some novel or something. This is a book that's meant to transform us for the better, if someone is willing to read it. And we have so many stories from Vijay, of people who got a book, and sometime later, they came back, their life was transformed. Vijay himself is one of them. All of us are examples. That it's just struck a chord. This is what I've been, searching for. There's so much meaning here. Let me pursue it. So this is, but it's a person behind it. Prabhupada, he struggled so hard to produce these books and to create a society where the books could be placed in the hands. And now also, a society where there are temples where there are regular classes and you can actually progress. It's not a given. In this age, as soon as you lose the association of devotees, you can be completely overwhelmed. And sadly, we've seen, I'm 50 years in the movement now almost, but many of my godbrothers, godsisters, they may have spent 10, 20, 30 years even in the movement even. And then they may not become completely covered, but they take a step back, for whatever reason. And you don't hear of them so much, They're still very fortunate. They have Prabhupada's blessings. There's a connection there. But the practices and the restrictions, whatever it is, So if we want to, make our lives as successful as possible, we should try to imbibe this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and mold our life in such a way that we can stay in the higher mode of goodness, develop the mode of pure goodness through the chanting of the holy name and the practice of devotional service. And in this way, navigate ourselves through these dangerous waters of Kali Yuga. I mean, it's, you don't have to look very far to see how dangerous it becomes. Even in the short 32 years I've been here, this environment has become more degraded. Just this corner of, this is San Diego after all. But the homeless people and the whole vibe is now, of course, the pandemic has a lot to do with it. But it's there's a lot of fear in people's minds and hearts. A lot of depression, anxiety, And so how do we cope with that? The only way to really cope with it with any depth is to develop our reliance and a relationship with Krishna, because he's infallible. And that's one of the prices of surrender, to be confident Krishna will protect, Krishna will provide, Maybe not always in the way that I'm hoping, but that's our real shelter. Krishna, we can take encouragement from the pastime here, the Govardhan Leela. What happened? There was an extreme danger from an out-of-control demigod, Indra, and the whole Vrindavan was threatened with complete flooding. We've seen some of the results of extreme flooding because of climate change. You're sitting in your house, and suddenly the road outside is a river, and you have to try to get out of there with as much of your belongings and your loved ones as possible. It's a boat, or you're driving a car, and the water's over the engine. It's horrible. So that's what was going on in Vrindavan, and all they knew, because they just knew Krishna, so please save us and lift the hill. So we have to have confidence in that. And in this book that he produced, this is for our ultimate benefit. Now, just quickly about the mode of ignorance here: determination, swapnam, bhayam, shokam, dreaming, fear, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. This is the nature of the mode of ignorance. there's no hope. When you get stuck in that mode, there's no entry point where you can be, enlightened. It's a very dangerous mode to navimunchati durmeda. One gives up. What does it say? Anyway, navimunchati durmeda doesn't give up this mentality, unintelligent. This is so-called determination in the mode of ignorance. So this is the material world. It's always a danger that you're going to allow yourself to be affected by these lower modes. And then your consciousness, your intelligence becomes covered. And we should always remember it's that sharp intelligence informed by the Shastra that really can guide us and give us strength to navigate this dangerous Kali Yuga. Okay, any questions, comments on these points Krishna is making? Okay, 3 kinds of happiness. Sukham tvidanim trividham. Shuname bharatarshaba. Abhyasad vramate yatra. Dukkantam chanigachati. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the 3 kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. Purport. A conditioned soul tries to enjoy material happiness again and again. Thus he chews the chewed. But sometimes in the course of such enjoyment, he becomes relieved from material entanglement by association with the great soul. In other words, a conditioned soul is always engaged in some type of sense gratification, but when he understands by good association that it is only a repetition of the same thing, and he is awakened to his real Krishna consciousness, he is sometimes relieved from such repetitive so-called happiness. So this chewing the chewed, this is a famous line from a verse spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. Now Prahlad Maharaj is a very fascinating figure. He's so inspiring. Here he is, delicate little boy, 5 years old, and he fearlessly confronts his demoniac father, who's so powerful that he's practically ruling the universe. Except for Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu, all the gods were bowing down to him. Even Narada Muni says, I also had to bow down to Hiranyakashipu. He says it in the Bhagavad Gita. So here's Prahlad, who is instructed by Narada in the womb. You know the story. And at a certain point, his father, because Prahlad has been able to protect himself just by meditating on Krishna from all of the efforts of his father to kill him, either directly or by his henchmen, So Hiranyakashipu, where do you get your power, And so he answers, from Krishna. But don't worry, father, you'll never become Krishna conscious. And then there's 3 verses. And the first one has this line in it. Matirna Krishne padatak svatoma bhova mito bipadyete grihavatanam adanta gobe vishatam tamisam punak punas charvita charvananam. That punak punas charvita is again and again chewing the chewed. So the first line, it's all very important for us. This is so instructive. Matir na Krishna, your mind, matir na Krishna, cannot be placed on Krishna if you meet this qualification in the verse. Either by others' efforts at helping you, or your own effort of meeting with others. Mito abipadyete grihavratanam. For those who have taken a firm vow to stay in materialistic household life. In other words, this is the only thing I'm interested in. And what's the result? Adanta gobhir. The senses are out of control. Vishatam tamisram, and thus you're entering more and more into darkness of illusion. And the central fact of your life is punak punas charvita charvananam. Again and again chewing the chewed. Trying to enjoy the same thing again from a little different angle, or, the different variety, whatever it is. But basically you're doing the same thing and deepening more and more your entanglement, your attachment for these things that you're chewing. Different varieties of sense gratification. So such a person cannot become Krishna conscious. And then he has a verse that Prabhupada would quote even more often. Nate, they who we just described in that situation, materialists who don't want to know anything but materialism. Nate vadu svartakatim hi vishnum dudashayaye bahirata manina. Such persons do not understand that the real sva-arta, this is a very important word. Arta means something valuable. Sva-arta means the goal of the soul, what is most valuable for you as a spiritual being. Nate bedu svarta gatimi Vishnum. They do not know that the goal, the ultimate value of struggle is Vishnu himself. They don't know anything about, they don't know, oftentimes the atheist, they don't know about God. If they know about God, somehow you can pray and He'll do some benefit for you, you know. Order supplier type God. They don't know. Nate bedu svarta gatimi Vishnum. Durashaya ye bahirartamanina. Durashaya means hoping for things that will never be fulfilled. Happiness, prosperity, and peace, peace of mind and security in this world. There may be some hint of it for some time, but it'll be dashed eventually by time. Because the whole basis is this fallible body. So, you know, one of the silver linings of getting old, you know, is that you can take a kind of a stock and see what a lifetime, you know, is like. In my life, it's pretty much a lifetime now, you know, 74 years. So you can see, well, it's not very long, you know. and as you lead your life, it goes faster and faster. I don't know if you know that, but when you get into 40s, 50s, 60s, everything is zipping by, you know. December already? Didn't we just have New Year's? Wasn't it just New Year's 2021? It's almost 2022. So, okay, so that's one lifetime. But we know, you know, that it's not, you know, this is just one chapter in a long book. It's just one lifetime. I've had many lifetimes. I'll have future lifetimes. So that's not the thing. The idea is that when you go down a certain road in your life, and you surround yourself with certain influences that are a record of your sense gratification and your desires, and you're kind of stuck, you're in a certain rut, then you're described by this verse. You have no idea that God is your actual goal. You may or may not believe in God. You know, you're not committed one way or another. And durashaya means you're hoping for things that will never be fulfilled. And you're encouraged in this. You're blind to the truth, and you're led by other blind people. That someone has a little charisma or a name, you know, a PhD or something after his name or something, and you regard that as evidence. You remember we were talking way back at the end of chapter 16, where Krishna says, Tasmat Shastra Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vastito. Therefore, O Arjun, or anyone else who's listening, if you want to avoid doing things that are going to get you thrown to hell, that are going to be conducted by whims and lust, anger, and greed, therefore you have to accept Shastra as the guide, the pramana, the evidence for what you should do and what you should avoid doing. That's our whole life. You do one thing, you don't do another, right? And understanding what Shastra says, you actually have to act that way as a matter of duty. Because why duty? Because we're not spontaneously attracted to do what is good, just the opposite. So we have to accept, through our intelligence, accept a higher authority. All right, I'm going to do this anyway, even though I don't want to, because I know it's good for me. I have faith. And I'm going to avoid that, even though I really want to, because I know it's bad for me. That's what he's describing there. But if someone has no access or no faith in the Shastra, then you're helpless at the hands of the material energy. You have to move according to the impulses of the lower modes, lust, anger, and greed. So that's what Prahlad is saying here. Andayatandar. You have these false beliefs, and you find others who believe in them, and they teach you. It's going on everywhere in America today. You know? The internet is like a curse for the most part. Because whatever you want to believe, you can find someone on there who encourage your belief. And they'll even sell you a book, right? Only $9.95. And in other words, they're making money off of your illusions. And so the point is that you can choose whatever you want, craziness you want to believe, and you'll find, and in this way, people, there's a lot of madness going on. So that's andayatandaya, the blind leading the blind. And and everybody stays bound up tightly by these ropes of the material desires and the modes of nature. Apisha tantra means strong ropes. So what's the solution? Does anyone know the third verse? Have you ever stirred? Naisham matis? No? Naisham matis tavaruru kamanging spishachanata bagamo yadarta. Mahiyasam bhadarado abhishekam You know what an abhishek is? A bath. So what do you have to take a bath in? The dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee. That's what it is. Naisha matis. So back to the mind. Naisha matis tabat urukramangrim. Urukramangrim is the lotus feet of Krishna. Urukram is a name for Krishna, mostly Vamana, who took big steps, but his general name, he who does wonderful deeds. Sprishati. Your mind can touch, can meditate on, can become absorbed in the lotus feet of the Lord. Then wonderful phrase. Spashat janarta apagamo yadarta. So then you enjoy the valuable thing of getting rid of all your anartas. You see? The anartas are things we've accumulated for lifetimes in our heart. Lust, anger, and greed, this desire, these doubts. These are all anartas blocking our advancement. But so it's a greatly valuable thing to get rid of those anartas. So that's the arta of anartas. So you can actually get rid of them by mahiyasam. Mahiyasam is a great souls, Mahatmas. Padarajobhishekam, taking a bath in the dust of the lotus feet. Nishkinchananam navanitya. Nishkanam, who possess nothing. They claim nothing in this world. That's one matter. So what does it mean to take the dust? It's a metaphor. It means that you surrender. And the most important surrender is to hear. Is to hear. That's the first thing. Hear, ardent hearing, submissive oral reception. Wonderful word, shushu sho. Right at the beginning of Bhagavatam, you find this word, shushu sho. Second verse. This Bhagavatam is all the books you need. If you hear with this attentiveness, submissiveness, receptiveness, then the Lord will appear in your heart, and you get realization. In other words, all perfection could be there just by hearing this Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So that's the determination in the mode of goodness. Otherwise, we're studying here 3 kinds of happiness. So what is the first kind? This is all material happiness. We didn't read that. What was the last verse we read? 36 or 37? 36. So he's introducing this section here. And there's 3 kinds of happiness materially. But that can be changed. We want that happiness that never turns to unhappiness. Because material happiness keeps you bound to this material world and ultimately results in birth, death, old age, and disease again. So as Prabhupada famously said, and we've been pointing out, that the material happiness of sense gratification is your worst enemy of the conditioned soul. Oh, now I got it all together, I'm fine. You're not fine. You have to feel the urgency of needing to get out. And there's no doubt about it that spiritual realization of any kind begins with sense control. Tasmat tvam niyanyado niyamya bharatarshava. 3rd chapter, Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Arjuna, in the beginning, control these senses. Niyamya bharatarshava. Patmanam, and conquer this enemy, this sinful enemy known as lust, overwhelming material desire, which keeps us bound here. So there's no happiness in there. There's just a trap, Maya's trap, illusion. That's why we came here, to try to enjoy independently. But that enjoyment independently leads to extreme suffering. It's a very bad investment. You get a little tickle of pleasure, which you can try to remember. You take a video of it, and you got it. Oh, I enjoyed so much. But all that does is keep you attached here. It blocks you from understanding the higher happiness. So this is Lord Chaitanya's great gift. If you just can take part in the chanting, and when you're tired, take a little prasadam, you'll feel happiness. You'll feel transcendental happiness. This is how this movement started. This is how it's being sustained. Chanting, 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 you can uncover enough of the soul so that you can really feel some pleasure coming from the spiritual stratum. Prabhupada says blissful, So at the beginning there's that, but still we have our conditioning. So then there's the process of serious purification. So we don't get back, fall back into one of these modes of nature and try to enjoy. So the process works. So let's hear. It says one enjoys and sometimes comes to the end of all misery. So that happiness is clearly spiritual happiness. Spiritual happiness is like a win-win. You're enjoying the kirtan, chanting Krishna's name, and then what you're also doing is you're paving your way out of this material world entirely, so that you can come to the point of not taking any birth again, going back to Godhead. This is our. It's hard to imagine because we're all encased in these material bodies, but that's our birthright. Anandamayo Bhyasat. Prabhupada will quote this sutra all the time. It's one of the Vedanta sutras. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vedanta is not about impersonalism. It's ultimately about bhakti. Ring a bell? Bhakti Vedanta? Yeah. The end of knowledge, it comes bhakti. That means Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is Anandamaya. Anandamaya means filled with bliss, always. How do we know? Abhyasat, because of his activities. We see his pastimes. Krishna is never morose. Even when he's killing the demons, he's enjoying. So we're part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, that's our birthright. We've lost it because we're minute, because we rebelled. Now we're covered by different layers of material energy, gross and subtle, and we're an illusion, and we're focused on this world of duality, and therefore we're suffering. But ultimately, if we purify our soul of these coverings by the proper means, we can return to that state. Mukti hitpanyata rupam swarupena vivastiti. Mukti does not mean merging into the oneness, losing our individuality, becoming God. No. Mukti means giving up all these false forms. I'm sorry, everyone here is sitting in a body, but it's not you. And it's different from who you were yesterday, what you were yesterday. It eventually disappears and everybody's seen again. So that's called the anyata rupam. These many different bodies. In this particular incarnation and others. But we have a sarup. So mukti, this is from the Bhagavatam, mukti hitva anyata rupam, giving up, hitva, these other bodies, and being situated in our sarup siddhi, our eternal spiritual body, which is perfectly suited for serving Krishna, relating to Krishna in our eternal rasa. That's the goal. We may not achieve it in one lifetime, but we should aspire for it and strive for it. And that's where real sukha is. And he hints at it here. Sometimes, dukhantaram comes to the end of all misery. That's only there available in the spiritual world. Okay, any questions or comments? No. Oh, please, but you got to use the mic because we have more people outside listening than inside. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so we say going back to Godhead, right?
Uh-huh.
So let's say when we die and we have the mercy, Krishna's mercy, and we go there. So do we experience anything there, or is just rest in peace? Just
No,
we
no.
experience
There's no rest
peace?
in peace.
No.
Sorry. We got a lot of dancing to do.
Okay. So does Krishna talks about that somewhere?
Oh, yes. If you want to really get some more details of that, you can read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. What's very interesting is that it's described, first of all, that there's millions of material universes as well as the Vaikuntha planets and universes. So in the material universes, when it's all manifested, at a certain point Mahavishnu withdraws everything and it's all unmanifest. But while it's manifested, which is a long time, Krishna is appearing somewhere, just like the sun, right? As the earth turns, it's always, somewhere in this world now it's 8 a.m. They may not call it 8 a.m. because of the time change or whatever. But if the sun is just coming up, or it's been up for an hour, let's say that, right? At somewhere right now, the sun is just rising, just coming over the horizon. And then right now, is it coming over the horizon? A little, like that. So somewhere, Krishna is taking birth. He's Janmashtami. And then somewhere in another universe, he's killing Putana. In another universe, he's doing the rasa dance. So all of his most intimate leelas are manifest in the material world somewhere. Now, when we leave this body, if we've really developed our perfection in Krishna consciousness, and we understand our sarup, we've been meditating on that, we've been doing all the things, raganuga, and we're absorbed always in thinking in that pastime. So we don't go directly back to Goloka Vrindavan. We go to the universe where Krishna's appearing, and we grow up with him contemporaneously, and we were able to take part in the Leela there. Then at the end of that body, then we go back. This is described by Srila Prabhupada. But being there with Krishna, even on a material planet, is just as good as being in Goloka. And in fact, there's a certain advantage, because you can experience Krishna growing up as a little child, as a baby, where he doesn't grow up in Goloka. He's always there in his wonderful adolescent form. Now that doesn't mean that there's not Vatsalya Ras there, mother and so forth. They see Krishna as the beloved child, dependent. But that wonderful, pastime of actually growing up as a baby, which is so delightful. It's just great. There's one verse that says, how is it? Kela Vihita Yamaraj. Yeah, Kela Vihita Yamarajana Bandhana, Sulalita Chadatanakila Janaranjana, Lochana Natana Jinchalakandana Mampati Pali Akali Ganjana. This is by Rupa Goswami. So the word Keli means pastimes. Vihita, the pastimes he performs as a little baby. Keli Vihita Yamaraj, he broke down the Yamarajana trees. That's one. Keli Yamaraj. Sulalita Chadita, his extremely charming, attractive pastimes. Nikhila Janaranjana delights all the residents of Vrindavan, when he's just growing up and being mischievous and all that stuff. So that's where you can take birth, if you develop your attraction for Krishna, and you take part in his Leela like that, and then when that life is over, you go back to Goloka Vrindavan for eternity.
Thank you.
But yeah, there's no rest in peace. Sorry, that phrase is there for those who are just exhausted with this material world, but unfortunately they have to take birth again, some species, but it's better than resting, Eternal play is what it is. All right, we can do one more. Something, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, thank you. You just mentioned about Krishna's Leela, that it's going on in material world. Is that
as long as the material world is manifest, yeah.
Still going somewhere?
Somewhere all the Leela are taking place, because it's like the sun rising. So Krishna is manifest in different universes at the same time. He can expand. So he's obviously not taking birth here. 5,000 years ago, he really appeared on this planet. And it was our turn, to see his 125 years of pastimes. I say our turn. I may not have been there at that time, but you understand, this planet, sir. But as soon as he takes birth here, then in the next universe, or some universe, he's taking birth again. So he's expanding. So those pastimes are going on somewhere in the material world all the time. All the pastimes are going on. It's in the CC.
Okay.
You can read it.
Is it Antali?
I think it's Anjali. Maybe Majali, yeah. Okay. I can find it.
No, I'm reading Madhya, but I haven't reached there. I started Madhya Leela.
Yeah, you'll see it.
Okay.
Keep reading.
And the other quick question, Prabhu, I have is, when you say 3 modes of material nature, sometime when I am talking about myself, so people say something and then we are in good mode of goodness or something, and then we get kind of morose or something in mode of, and then we get into, how do we come out of, like, sometime somebody says something and we get, our ego hurts or whatever, then we get kind of upset and we go down, our mode of
this is why we have to chant constantly.
Enthusiasm, so goes down. I'm like, oh, why,
It's because we're forgetting Krishna.
Krishna.
If you strongly remember in Krishna, then you won't be up and down. You'll be very steady.
Steady.
That's throughout the Gita we find. What is it? Sukha dukkam samay kritva labha jaya. Michelle wants to ask.
Excuse me, Hare Krishna. Just on the same topic, does Lord Chaitanya also manifest again in the material world somewhere?
Well, it's a schedule. When Krishna appears, then Lord Chaitanya comes in the next Kali Yuga. So yeah, it's the same Krishna appearing. So if Krishna is appearing, then Lord Chaitanya will appear and start the Sankirtan mission. We don't know how many universes we've been following him, but at a certain point, we want to get out of this material world entirely and be back in the spiritual world. All right, Sukham, let's see, let's read one of these. They're all these short purports. 37. Yat tad agre vishamiva pariname mitopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. In the pursuit of self-realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses, and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison, but if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life. So this is like one of the basic principles of any yoga system, including Bhakti Yoga, is control of the senses and actually refinement of the senses. Because what does it say? With these material senses, you can't understand the holy name of the Lord. I have to review these verses more. God. But if one begins to serve the Lord with one's tongue by chanting, Sevan mukha hijivado swayame vaspar atak Shri Krishna namadi nabave grayam indriyai. Sevan mukha hijivado swayame vasparachida. So, with our present senses, we can't understand the name, form, qualities of Krishna. Mysterious. But if one, with faith, this is where the charya comes in, because you can directly see and perceive, and therefore your faith is awakened. All right, I'll try the process. It's in the Shastra, and it's, so you begin chanting and taking prasadam, two functions of the tongue. Sevan mukhi jivhado swayameva sparatyada. The Lord reveals himself through these things. In other words, a taste awakens. And so at the beginning it can be very austere. You have to stop doing those things that you really want to do, like I said. And you have to wake up early and do all these different things, austerities. So it's a little bit troublesome, poison in the beginning. But before long, especially in the present age, if you're a little bit serious, there'll be not steady ecstasy, but you'll get some drops of bliss. And say, oh, there's really something here. You look at some of these YouTube videos of the devotees back in 26 Second Avenue. There's a lot of bliss there. With Prabhupada, they're chanting, doing something. And you can see how happy they are. You can experience it. So that should be an indication that you should pursue it more, that you can get to the point of always enjoying that. So that's in the mode of goodness. Mode of goodness, mode of pure goodness, Prabhupada is kind of saying that. So this is, you can lead to that. But it's tricky because we know there's offenses. There's ways of stopping your progress, where no matter how hard you try, you can't get the taste because you've offended the spiritual master or somebody, and you can't be with devotees anymore. It's very dangerous. So we need to know as much as possible how to avoid those offenses, how to properly do it step by step at a proper rate. So we can come to the point where Krishna consciousness is blissful. And we can feel, in this time now where there's so much, difficulty in people's mentality, that devotees are generally not experiencing that. Is that they're still chanting and taking shelter of Krishna and doing the things that keep us healthy in Krishna consciousness. So on a material level, it's a tremendous boon to be able to chant Hare Krishna with seriousness and taste. All right, it's 11 minutes after. I think we should get ready for the kirtan. Thank you so much for your attention, both locally and in Zoom land. Hare Krishna.